YouTube? It has been with Bearded Spruce, back for another update about what we've been doing. So we've got a lot done for the electrical system. So a few weeks ago we did the 7-pin system with the 7-pin harness, and then wired all the exterior lights for running lights, backup lights, turning lights, and etc. This week we actually worked on the 110 as well as the 12-volt system. You can see all these wires dangling around me and kind of up through the ceiling. The two different types of wire we used. This one for the 12-volt system, it's actually audio cable. I went with a 500-foot roll, and I do not regret that decision. There are a ton of uses for 12-volt in an Airstream, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to use a little over half of this 500-foot roll. And then the other type is this yellow, typical 110 household wiring that I use for all the 110 outlets and items in the trailer. I'll link to both of those in the description below. But let's jump into the plan that I made this last week so I could have something to follow. I'll put it up right here next to me, and I'll kind of walk through it. Basically, I color-coded everything so I could keep everything nice and tidy. This is the entire plan for the Airstream. You can see in the front we're going to have a booth. In the back we'll have a bed, and then the bathroom and kitchen on one side to my left behind me, and then on the right there'll be the fridge and a little coffee bar kind of countertop area with storage beneath and above as well. Starting in the front, so we have the booth. We'll have both a 110 outlet as well as 12-volt outlets like USB, USB-C ports. One or two outlets up there. Haven't quite decided how many I'm going to fit up there. And then above those, behind the camera above the booth, is going to be two lights on each side that will have a pull string switch. Kind of moving back into the next layer of the Airstream. So in the kitchen we'll have the same kind of 110 and 12-volt plug, as well as the vent system above the oven, and then that will be 12-volt as well as a 12-volt ignition for the gas oven. Then going into the bathroom, we'll have two can lights that you can see in the diagram. One in the shower and one in the main area of the bathroom, and then another USB / 110 plug over the sink, so you can plug in a hairdryer or whatever you want to charge your phone while you're in the bathroom, what have you. There will be also a switch for those lights that will be a dimmer over there. And then in the back of the Airstream, we'll have two more pull string lights on the back wall, and then some plugs, both USB and 110 plug back there. And then going to the coffee bar area over here, we'll have an outlet, again, the 110 and the 12-volt. And then next to it is the 12-volt fridge, and then an exterior outlet that, as you can see on the diagram, is labeled EO instead of IO, which is all the internal outlets that you can see as well. You have the front porch lights, and then basically on this side of the fridge you'll have all the switches, the dimmer switches for not only the porch lights but the lights in the middle of the Airstream that will be pretty much in every other bay, one or two lights depending on how much light they give off. The only other thing that I haven't mentioned is on the roof we have the fantastic fan. I'll link to the video on how to install that up above, as well as the air conditioning in the back. The fantastic fan is a 12-volt system that has a switch built into it, And then the air conditioning is going to run on 110, which will go through our inverter, which I'll explain in a future video, but that will be on its own dedicated power. So now that we've gone through the plan, and I highly encourage everyone that's doing an Airstream renovation or building a trailer or anything like that to make this plan as close to scale as possible. I designed this one in Photoshop because that's the tool I know, but you can use graph paper. There's all kinds of tools out there to use. Just make sure you have a plan so you know exactly where to put everything and run all the wires. Speaking of running all the wires, I had an issue with this year of Airstream. There's not a ton of ways to keep wires up and tidy running on the ceiling or even down the channels and that kind of stuff. So I did some research and found a great solution for. All right, so let's get up into the ceiling area. As you can see here, I ended up drilling a hole on each side of the little kind of crevasse, if you will, and then using a zip tie. I'm keeping it pretty loose at this point until I get all the wires run through. But in every rib running down the Airstream on both sides, I did this so I can keep all the wires nice and tidy. And then when I'm ready to put the walls up, I can zip these nice and snug. I can even put like a little piece of rubber in here to act as kind of a barrier. So as we're driving down the road, these don't get chafed on the plastic. All right, so let's jump into walking through both the 110 and the 12-volt system. Let's bring you over to where I'm gonna have the panel. You can see the panel I have here. I'll link to this in the description below as well. You wanna make sure if you're doing lithium that you have one that works with lithium batteries is the most important part. I'm not going to wire this all up until I build the booth, but you can see in here that there's the 110 basically like household section here for all that stuff, and then in here is all the 12-volt. You can't really see very well here, but I'll show in a future video once I get all that wired up. But here is the organized chaos of both types of wiring, and you can see that there's 3 that are for the 110 outlets, and I have a dedicated one just for the air conditioner because I thought that was important. And you want to make sure that you kind of evenly divide the outlets and all that kind of stuff, both on the 110 system and on the 12-volt system. I also labeled everything with this blue painter's tape, kind of wrote exactly what is going on so I know how to size the different zones once I get to that, you know, wiring the actual panel itself. But as you can see, this is kind of the hub of the entire electricity system. One note is to make sure that you do everything in parallel. So as you can see, here's an example. This will be a pull switch light, and then there'll be a second pull switch light over here, kind of in the jumbled mess over there with wires. You don't want to wire them in series because then if you switch this one off, it will kill the power for the second light. You want to wire them in parallel, which I'll link to a great resource to kind of explain that. In general, that's what we've been working on, both the plan for the whole Airstream as well as running all these wires and kind of wrapping my head around the 110 and the 12-volt system. The last thing that I want to show you before we jump off for this week is we got our C channel in. This is a mess back here as well, just kind of learning how to weld and all that kind of stuff, but I'm trying to build up the confidence to cut these to fit in the C channel on the, you know, the exterior sides of it. and then start welding these guys into place. So there'll be one here pretty much where this guy is, and then one back behind towards the back, the very end of the Airstream. So wish me luck in my learning how to weld. Thank you so much for joining this week. We're excited to start moving forward. Once we get, got all this out of the way, and we get the actual frame repaired and those cross beams in place, and I build up some confidence with welding, it's going to start moving pretty quickly, and I'll start getting to finish it, which is the part I've been looking forward to, is actually building the walls and all that kind of stuff. So that is soon to come, but in the meantime, thanks so much for joining, and feel free to subscribe below and like this video and check out the rest of the Airstream project. I also started a DIY series, so feel free to check out some other videos on my channel, the other DIY projects that are going on. We just finished building a custom cabinet, and we'll have some more of those videos as well. We also would love some help naming our Airstream. Leave a comment below if you have a good idea for our Airstream. It is quite a unique little guy. It's going to be a lot of fun to renovate, and we just need some help naming. So leave a comment below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.